Listen to some of the biggest names in sports on demand on your new podcast network, Play.it. Hear exclusive content from 16-time World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion Ric Flair.
Wooooo Nation!
Bill Roden on sports.
We are talking about a whole nother level of speed in the game.
And listen to top CBS radio sports personalities like Boomer and Carton and the Sports Junkies.
Do you think they will play with desperation?
Yes, of course.
Do you think you will see it?
Hear what you've been missing at Play.it. Play.it sports podcasts are powered by DraftKings. Sign up now and play daily fantasy sports for cash.
This is Conrad Thompson with Wooooo Nation right here on Play.it. And baseball's in full swing, and you can be a part of all the action all season long at DraftKings.com, the official daily fantasy partner of Major League Baseball.
There is only one Ric Flair, 16-time world champion, but don't get down. Don't despair. You can win cash every single day at DraftKings.
No season-long commitments, win huge prizes every day. Peter from Colorado won $1 million in just one day. Are you kidding me? Hey, Pete, when you come to Atlanta, drinks are on you, pal.
Woo! New contests start daily, so hurry to DraftKings.com right now and use promo code FLAIR to play for free in today's $10,000 fantasy baseball contest. DraftKings.com, official partner of Major League Baseball. Enter Flair for free entry now at DraftKings.com. 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 Woo!
A man who wears the 10 pounds of gold, the nature boy, Ric Flair.
You know, I always like to take this opportunity to talk about myself. Woo! Woo!
The 16-time heavyweight champion has arrived.
I've got the style and profile like never before.
The greatest talker in the history of the business is behind the mic once again.
You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine like, jet flying, son of a gun. Woo!
This is Wooooo Nation with Ric Flair.
I'm the man. Ric Flair. Ladies and gentlemen, Nature Boy Ric Flair, live with my co-host Conrad Thompson on Wooooo Nation. Our guest today, arguably one of the top 3 managers in the history of the business, and my really close friend and the manager of the Four Horsemen, James J. Dillon. And God only knows, James J., we did it all. We had it all. Caesar salad, Caesar's palace.
all I can say is amen to all of that.
How are you, man? Thanks for coming on.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on, Jim.
Oh, this is an honor. It's a real honor because I know that this thing is launched with you, and you've already got a tremendous following and have had some great guests, and I'm just glad to now be able to join you.
Yeah, but my people, my fans want to hear from guys that suffered divorces because of me.
So in other words, you've got a guest list that enables you to stay on the air for
yeah.
For
and the
years.
problem is, even though you created your own issues, you'll blame it on me like everybody else did. Rip Oliver, name it. The list goes on. So, hey, what the hell? Jeanette, Beth, see you when we see you. Me and James J. are flying with the Eagles, baby. Woo!
Yeah, and if you catch the divorces that blame it on you, then there's some where we're talking multiple divorces. So I don't know how you.
Oh wow! Thanks so much. You know what? We're gonna hang up right now and call you back tomorrow. Hey Jim, what a great deal last week with Dusty on the network, huh?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it was bittersweet that we had to have a situation like that with the passing of the dream for you, Orrin, and I to get together with P.S. Michael Hayes, but to sit live like that and just to sit around like we were sit at the bar and have a discussion there was no tears shed. You know, it was just all, not that we don't miss them, because we certainly do, but we just all told stories of our own personal experiences with them, and the hour just flew by.
Well, let me just share something that I've told everybody. So, a lot of people don't understand that on Thursday, let me think, the funeral was on a Wednesday, right, Jim?
Yes.
So the following, the Thursday before,
Right.
Jim and Terry Funk and all these guys had come to Tampa to celebrate the Fort Hesterly Armory being turned into a Jewish community center. Correct, Jim?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So I saw Jim. He came by to see me because I couldn't go Thursday. I went Friday, but we still had a big line. It worked out great that I went. But it's a lot of money. Nobody paid Jim's way, right?
No,
and I said, well, I see you at the funeral. I said, I'm going to try and work it out. I walk in the door of the funeral with Wendy and Megan and David and Ashley, and sure enough, there's James J. He wouldn't miss it, you know.
Right.
No.
I know, Jim. I'm saying that because it's not cost effective for me. It makes sense, but it's what we do, and you respect somebody and think the world of them. And I thought it was so awesome you were there because you were such a major part of his life.
Yeah, I mean, it started in Florida. We worked together and just had good chemistry. I could never have done as well as he did what he did. He was a big picture guy, and he thought big. And as you know, my forte has always been, a detail person. So sometimes a big picture guy like that, is complemented by somebody who's a detail person to cover all the small points, and then the end product is even better. So we really developed a great relationship with Michelle, his widow, and I watched his two sons grow up. And both, not only was Dusty certainly a great credit to the business, but his two sons as well. And this just caught us all by surprise. It was a shock.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not funny, but it's to think that like Vince cut us off and it was done right. But what I never got to say is that while we're all having so much fun, me, Arn, JJ, of course, was having fun, but he was still doing the footnotes, right? Is that Dusty, while all that fun, he was thinking. Me and Arn and Michael Hayes weren't thinking. Right. We're just going to work, right? Yeah. Dusty, after all, at the end of the day, he was always thinking. And that's a lot if you think about it, because he drank like hell with us when we had a great time. But at the end of the day, he was thinking.
Right.
And of course, you'd probably say to JJ, write this down because I won't remember it tomorrow. And boy, who would instill that in JJ, Mr. Rum and Coke?
Yeah, I tell everybody that trying to keep up with you for all those years.
Oh, really? Now, once again, it's me. Can you say Arn or Tully or Barry, please?
Well, we have to have a leader, and you were our leader. So, none of us knew. We knew out front there's no way we could keep up with you, but so we tried to follow you and do the best we could.
Yeah, but I don't drink rum and Coke. You do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
But we had such a good time. We talk about the Horsemen, and they broke ground for something new and different that's been followed and imitated by others, and you can never duplicate or exceed something that's the original. And we were the original.
Yeah,
and we just had great chemistry with us, and we were together so much. Mm-hmm. We were on the road together. We were away from our homes a lot. We were when we had days off, we got together because we genuinely enjoyed each other's time.
Exactly.
And that comes through to the fans. They can sense that.
Jim, like you said the other day, 25 years later, I go to a signing, right? They don't want to hear about my 2 rings. They want me to put my 4 fingers up. It is the way it is. You've seen it.
And it happens to me on a daily basis. Oftentimes where, I least expect it. I just spent the weekend in Waterloo, Iowa, and had a chance to go see the Trago Stez Hall of Fame and to see Beth Phoenix inducted, and Brian Blair was inducted, and Kurt Angle, who just had been inducted in 2012 and wasn't there, and just got out of.
He just had neck surgery,
and he was there to accept, his recognition.
Oh, Kurt came.
Dan Gable.
Kurt came.
Yes, he did.
Oh, great! He's a great guy, man. He's an awesome man.
Yeah, he is, and met Dan Gable, and that was an honor to meet somebody who just was so outstanding, with not only as somebody in amateur wrestling, but as a coach with all of those
10 national championships in a row.
Yeah.
Never heard of.
Phenomenal what he did. And then, of course, Baron Rasky was there. And
the Baron was there?
Yeah, the Baron was there.
Oh, my God, how is he?
Yeah, he looks great. And Larry Henning was there. So it was really a nice get-together. And I was just blown away by the museum, the Dan Gable Museum, and then the Trago Stez Hall of Fame, of which you remember, is part of that museum.
No, I feel bad. I didn't go to accept my award. I just couldn't get off to go.
Yeah, but you definitely have to get there to. It's like a lot of things. You can't really adequately describe it. You got to go and see for yourself. And the people there are doing an outstanding job. And Jim Ross was there. And I met a guy named Bill Murdoch, and he's doing a drive.
No, Bill's from North Carolina. I know Bill very well.
Yeah, Headlock on Hunger.
Yeah.
And this is something that and Ross talked about it, and that we talk about things around the world. People that are starving, and when you look at our own country and the percentage of young kids who go hungry every night, that's what this drive is about, is putting a headlock on hunger to feed meals to kids who have no other place to turn for food. So, again, professional wrestling, we worked our tails off, and you continue to do so, and yet at the same time, we're giving something back to the people that supported us all those years.
Well,
that's awesome.
The main thing, too, is that so many people don't understand the WWE takes so much time for Wounded Warrior, military, Make-A-Wish.
We saw that yesterday.
I mean, and yesterday, as an example, at Raw, my lovely daughter debuted. I was so thrilled with that moment. But at the same time, my oldest daughter, Megan, who you know, Jim, very well,
yes,
brought a family with a 10-year-old boy that's terminally ill. I mean, he's had 2 major operations, probably has 90 days to live. And Stephanie McMahon took the time to walk him through the whole entourage.
Wow.
He met everybody. And here's Stephanie, right, who has got a lot going on in her world, right? Doesn't have to do it. She took him, Conrad witnessed it, under her wing and took this young man everywhere for autographs, from John Cena to...
Titus O'Neil was wonderful.
Yeah, and Titus O'Neil said a prayer for him, but he met John, he met Brock Lesnar, he met Hunter. I mean, the little boy will never get over it. It was a great moment. I mean, not that means anything to a little guy that's terminally ill, but I think at that moment it meant a lot to him.
Oh, absolutely.
And it did to his family.
And this is one thing that, and it's not just because, I'm talking on the line with you right now in your podcast, but I've said it in other forums when I've done interviews and things. And one of the things that I always admired the most about you and why I consider you such a great champion was your work ethic. And when we were on the road, every night we were fortunate enough to have capacity crowds, just about every place that we went. But, there's always that place, whether it was the television that week got preempted or something, and you get to the arena and it's not what you expect. And I've been around a lot of guys that get into an arena that's half full, and then they get a half effort out of them. And that's the one thing that I've always admired about you, Rick, that whether there was, a sold-out arena or a handful arena, there was never any shortcuts. And your philosophy, and then really it was the philosophy of everybody in the Horsemen, was that the people that were there that night
got the best,
paid for a ticket the same price as the other arenas, with an expectation of so much, and you delivered it and delivered more. And wow. So in a funny kind of way, it's the same thing. It was our way of caring about the fans, because none of us ever would have had the level of success that we had if it hadn't been for the support of the fans. They're the ultimate judge and jury.
Exactly. Are you trying to apologize for booking me with Charlie Cook?
Well, you got to forgive me for a few things, too.
Are you kidding? Hey, leave me. My first week in the NWA champion, I'm with JJ. We're drinking rum and Coke like serious coming back from West Palm. I've just wrestled Charlie Cook for an hour. There were 6 people in the building.
Oh, my gosh.
Not 6, but maybe 206.
There was a few more than that.
Well, maybe 1,006. But the 10,000-seat building. Okay, so there we go, right? So, and we're used to seeing it full. But they gave JJ the job and said, have at it, because they were mad. They were mad I became the champion.
They were mad in Florida, you're saying?
Oh, yeah.
So
Dusty and Eddie Graham evacuated the premises.
Again, I could say the same thing, that was the deck that you were dealt, and really it was a deck that I was dealt too, and it was like, making chicken salad.
No, I know, I'm saying.
Chicken feathers. And
you had to make chicken salad and chicken shit. The problem was I was the chicken shit. The chicken salad is every jabroni you can find to wrestle me.
And what it meant was...
You're laughing. You know the truth.
Maybe we drank a little bit more than we might have otherwise.
Coming back from West Palm, I remember buying you a quart of rum.
And expected me to drink the whole thing as payback.
Yeah, exactly, right. I mean, let's get serious. We had, you know what, though, Jim? We did it. We dealt. We had a good time. You know what? At the end of the day, I never went back to the hotel going, God, I hate Jim Dillon. I went back going, what a hell of a trip.
Yeah, but, that was the relationship that we had.
Oh, my God, it was great.
Because when you take 5 guys, everybody's got their own individual personality. But there was just a magical chemistry among us. And,
well, with you and I, it was very simply, for the time I mentioned Amarillo, it was alcohol. It resolves a lot of issues.
And it makes the podcast good. Ask Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah, Kevin Sullivan.
So, JJ, when did you first meet Ric Flair?
72.
It was in Amarillo, and it would have been... what year did you start?
72. It was 1972 or 3.
Yeah. So
I don't know how I wound up in Amarillo, but JJ was there. Second story apartment.
What happened was that the powers to be in wrestling, already could see that Rick was world championship material, and in those days it was before cable television, saturated everything. So they wanted him to go to these various territories and for them to see firsthand, what a really great talent Rick was. And so he came in for a week, and we immediately bonded. And cars are fueled by gasoline, and wrestlers are fueled by something else.
No.
I guess alcohol was
James, just say it. Alcohol
was the key ingredient. Yeah.
JJ, you
And I
mentioned
guess
there that early in Rick's career, people could see that he had the makings of a world champion. What type of intangibles do you look for to recognize it, whatever it is?
You know, that's the thing. It's an intangible that you can't put your finger on because we in the business we call it the it factor. It's charisma, and it's something that you can't teach somebody if they don't have it. And if they have it, it automatically surfaces. And anybody that was around Rick, I mean, right from the beginning, I mean, in the tribute to Dusty, and I, it was maybe accepted by Rick in a joking manner that all of my life that I've been around Rick is the nature boy 24 hours.
Hey, and once again, I'm going to repeat this for the 33rd time. That didn't really work for me. You know that, right? So, you know what? Times 4 wives, times 1.5 million alimony, times 860,000 in attorney fees, domestic, which are not write-offs. So being an nature boy, even though I enjoyed
it's not a write-off.
Huh?
That's hilarious. You know it's not a
domestic
write-off.
lawyer fees? I've been trying to earn them off for years. Are you kidding me? We're off everything with domestic lawyer fees. It makes no sense.
That's hilarious.
But
Jim, being a nature boy was fun when I was younger. What's that?
You are what you are, and
thank you.
Every time that I'm with you, I never have a bad day. I'm with
why
you,
would you?
Regardless of what's going on, we laugh, we tell stories, we smile, and we have a drink.
But Jim,
or two.
You like me when my credit card's working. Sometimes it bounces. Last week when I was with you, it actually worked. But you're low maintenance. You're like Jim and I are sitting there, 12 o'clock closing right at the Hyatt in Chicago, right?
Right.
So here we are. The guy is at 12 o'clock closing, right? So I go to the guy. Okay, give me 4 glasses of wine and give him 4 double light road. Is it Bacardi light, right? Of course, it has to be light. God bless. What's the difference between light and dark?
Right.
And double with Coke. And we sat there, and the bar was gone. There was nobody in the hotel. Me and Jim were still drinking and laughing.
That's awesome.
It was awesome as hell. And that's when I realized, because I told Jim that, and I'm not switching the subject, but I am fascinated with these shows about prisons.
Right.
Because Jim, you have no idea. I watch Raw, whatever that show is, not Raw Wrestling, but Locked Up. That's my favorite show. So I didn't know, I thought Jim was administrative. He's actually a guard, certified approved, with a machine gun in his hands. And I wanted,
a machine gun.
Whatever he wants.
They don't give him a machine gun because they say, well, we know of your reputation. You drank with Ric Flair, so we're not going to put anything of that caliber in your hand.
No, what I'm saying is, I didn't realize. I thought JJ was like administration behind the lines. I watched these shows called Locked Up and that. I go, Jim, what's it like? He said, you have no idea. Because, Jim, I'm still stuck on this. I know we're switching off wrestling, which will make the CBS people unhappy. But how do they have gangs? Like, you just saw the deal, right, where the guy broke out of the prison in Mexico, right?
Yes.
The drug lord, right?
Yes.
They actually built a mile-long tunnel into his cell.
Underneath the shower. I guess it was in his cell, underneath the shower.
I saw it, Jim. It's like, and they had a trolley for him. He didn't walk out. He rode in a trolley like a golf cart.
Oh my gosh!
You didn't see that?
No, I didn't know.
Oh my God!
I mean,
and now the guy they go. We have 44. This is the largest cartel dealer in the world for the United States. Black tar heroin, which obviously I'm sensitive to, cocaine, meth, all that stuff, right? And they said we have 48 hours. They're never going to find a guy.
No, they've already said. They said they've had him in jail in Mexico. He
twice.
Broke out of there.
Got out twice.
And,
it's so corrupt. But is your prison like that too, Jim?
I would be naive to say that there weren't people that could get things done. And they're always trying.
No, I'm not asking you to commit to a statement about where you work at. I'm just saying, I mean, it's like Atlanta. We're in Atlanta right now. The federal prison here is like insanity. I mean, it's just remember when they arrested Jody Hamilton under the false ID? Do you remember that, Jim?
I hadn't remembered that, but
well, I mean, I guess my memory. I saw something on TV the other way by that would make me feel very good about my life. There's a lot of things that cause brain cells to be damaged, but alcohol is not one of them. So I have a memory from hell.
Let's circle back right here on Woo Nation from Play.it. Let's talk a little bit more about Dusty. Of course, JJ, you were involved in a lot of the booking back in the day for the glory days of Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. What would your official title be, and kind of carry us through what your role would be in assisting Dusty with his booking back in the day?
Well, I was never one for what's my official title, but what it amounted to was...
Well, actually, can I just tell you something without interrupting JJ? JJ was really the director and head of travel.
Okay.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
I had to go there.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, you give me a shot back.
And I could do a discussion where I can blame that one on you too, because we followed the dots backward.
Yeah, for bringing a professional employee from Man Travel to the office. I didn't say you had to take her and get your captain's license with her, okay? Or whatever license you got.
She was 13 years younger than me, so then you can start to figure out from there what might have happened.
Yeah,
but,
Conrad, JJ, I've actually experienced that twice over. It's not cost effective. I know. So here we go. Go back to Conrad. Here's Conrad dying.
But it was you talked about before, what you're looking for with people, and it's a business and they still today try to refine evaluating talent and looking at raw talent and see who they think has potential and who doesn't. And I'm not talking out of school with Rick, but I know with his daughter Charlotte, with Ashley, that he has seen her. I've seen pictures of her. She is an awesome athlete. You could tell just from a picture that she's an awesome athlete. Every review that I've read, she just has so much potential, and so she's like a thoroughbred racehorse that's being led into the thing for the gate for the race to start, and the bell never rings and they don't open the gate on her, and that's got to be.
No, it happened last night, Jim. It happened last night. She debuted last night in Raw.
Muscatine, Iowa, with my daughter at a drum corps event, and I didn't get to see Raw last night.
I'm trying to keep you updated on what's going on, man. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ashley debuted last night. It rocked. It was awesome. Man. Stephanie and Hunter involved. Her friend Sasha and Becky Lynch came out. I mean, it was like over the top. Stephanie introduced her by saying,
Born and bred to do this,
and she is the limousine ride, and then they played her music. I mean, I cried all night. It was absolutely over the top. And she put the figure 8 on one of the girls, which is her way of telling me that I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
That's okay. I can live with that. She's a better athlete than I was all day long. But Jim, it was so incredible. I cried. Megan was there. Morgan was there. Wendy was there with her kids. David was there with his wife and kids. It was like Conrad was there with his wife. Well, she's borderline, kind of like Wendy, okay? But they don't hear the podcast anyway. But his fiance's daughter, and they all had what a wonderful experience. What a great time.
Well, knowing you was tears of pride and joy.
Oh my God, that's not on my mind.
You've been waiting for this moment, and
I know, and frustrated.
I knew that that she's got all the tools, and the challenge is going to be for them to find quality girls, because it's like where the Horsemen is as great as we were. We had to have somebody across the ring that would.
Yeah, but think about us, and she's in the same stable as us. If they weren't good, we made them good.
That's true, too.
We did. She's in a place where there's a lot of talent. At NXT, where she's coming from, But it's a very political game now. It's all about positioning. It's all about time. But she's doing great, and she's so happy. I've never seen her as happy in my life. So there we go.
But politics have always existed in wrestling, and JJ, you wrote in your book that one of your priorities back in the day was trying to keep everyone happy. When Dusty was booking and beating up the Horsemen every night, you would have to maybe put a bug in the Crockett's ear, and they would kind of hit the reset button with Rick. Talk us through what one of those experiences or scenarios looked like.
Yeah, I mean, it was awkward because here, as successful as Dusty and I were, I did not have the kind of relationship with him where I could knock on the door and say, "Hey, Dusty, what the hell's going on?" And you could certainly sit back and look and figure that and Dusty had an ego, but that was part of what made him successful. And that there were times where the guys among the Horsemen thought that ego was running unchecked because we were giving every night. We were leaving in pools of our own blood, but we were able to get on television with the belts, tell our version of the story. And what was so great about us, a lot of people, when they have that kind of heat, and maybe the current generation really doesn't understand what the true definition of heat is, but we knew what it was, and we had it. And, the concern was that at some point the fans were going to be too satisfied and not want to see it anymore. And that was it's a delicate line of where you satisfy them too much and their attention then goes on to something else. But we ironed all that out, and that's the reason that the Horsemen were as big as they were and lasted as long as they did. And there's politics and everything, and wrestling is no different. So Jimmy Crockett had a great relationship with Rick that went way back before that. Jimmy Crockett was the president of the company, brought Dusty in, so he had a different relationship with Dusty than any of us. And even though I was kind of caught in the middle because I was with Dusty during the daytime and I was with the guys at night, I was the one that was, having to listen to the frustration. And, they looked at me and they said, "Well, don't you talk to him, or you should talk to him."
Yeah, I know. Jim, and that wasn't fair to you. We rode down the road. The problem is we drive with Jim all the way to a town, right, and bitch like hell. The place would be sold out. We tear the door down. We just come back and we wouldn't talk about anything but girls. So that's a good way, right?
Yeah, that was
after the rest area.
Change the conversation in a positive way. That was my out. And
look at Minnebuckle. Calm down. You didn't pop on the rest area, I said. Yeah. You heard me.
In Chicago last week before we did the thing, I got in there early in the morning and Rick was there and had the whole day with him. And it's been a long time since I've had a whole day. And we just ended up, one story leads to another story. And I never laughed so much in my life. And then all of a sudden we're sitting down, and as soon as Raw ended, we were doing the thing live for the network, and that went extremely well. And like I say, the bar wasn't open as long as we would like to. But I wouldn't trade anything for those days when I could have time with Rick and just sit and just tell the old stories. And the amazing part of them is that they're all true.
Okay, JJ, I'm going to tell two stories, okay? I need you to affirm them, right? Okay, so me, JJ, his wife, Jeanette, at that time, and my lovely wife, Cleopatra, better known as Beth, better known as Cleopatra, the most spoiled woman of all time, had one of her 300 Louis Vuitton purses or whatever it was, Christian Dior. What was hot back in the 80s? I mean, I can't remember. But
whatever it was, they had it.
Yeah, they were, right? So me and JJ are laughing and drinking, having fun. We're Bennigan's in Charlotte, right, which was a hot spot, believe it or not, in the 80s. And so Beth said something smart to me, so I took up her purse, and I punted it across the bar. And I mean, I punted it. JJ witnessed it. It flew high. It was like it could have been like a 40-yard field goal. We were playing NFL.
Yeah, it'd have been a field goal for sure if there had been a.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it sailed. So she looked at me and said, "You're done." I'm taking Ashley and we're moving out. So Ashley was born in 86, so Ashley was probably 3, right? Or maybe 2. In a crib.
Yeah, I would say.
So I go, James, hey,
very small.
let's go get Ashley, man. This shit ain't happening, man. So me and JJ pile in his Cadillac, because God forbid I can't drive. And by the way, JJ shouldn't have been driving. We drive over to my house, drive up the driveway, right? JJ, I said, I'll get Ashley. Don't move. And if the women come, block them effectively. Well, I went inside, and I was so hammered that I went inside Ashley's room, told the babysitter to leave, right? And I went underneath Ashley's crib and laid down. The garter, right? Well, I wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning. This is like 2 a.m., right?
Right.
I wake up at 7, look at my head up, I bang my head on the top of the crib. I go, what the hell's going on? I look, and Ashley's gone. I go, damn it all, what happened, right? Trying to get my senses together. I walk outside the driveway, and here's James J. Windows down, in the Cadillac, passed out cold, car still running. Car still running. I go, Jim. He goes, wah. What if I had put JJ in the garage on a secret mission? He would have died from emission control. True story. He's out cold. So now, JJ, you finish the rest of the story with you and Jeanette. It's the best. I was dying. So he and I got to go over to his place and grovel. We're sorry. That same old shit, right? So tell the story, but you, JJ, you do better than me. But it was phenomenal.
Yeah, I go home and then took a bit of a browbeating of my loyalty to Rick and hanging with him, and that. So I mean, I was hungover. I laid down, got some sleep, and then I had to get up and get something to eat. And Rick
I was down in the guest room begging Beth to have Ashley come back. I should have taken Ashley and left Beth.
Rick comes over to my place, and when you walked in the front door, the kitchen was off to the left, and you could just see
that's a long hallway.
And so Jeanette was there flipping eggs or pancakes or God only knows what she was making, and just berating me, cooking and berating me at the same time.
Oh, terrible!
And
you
couldn't
loser!
You couldn't see me at first.
How dare you hang out with Ric Flair? He's the worst.
Yeah.
I walked down to defend myself. JJ's asleep on the kitchen table. Listen to a word she said.
Mental picture that I'm standing there at attention like a soldier taking this browbeating.
I was going down to stick up for myself.
Around the corner, my head's on the kitchen table, folded on my arms, and I'm sound asleep. And she's talking to a person who could have been a dead man. Oh, and it's a true story. It is a true story. And I felt bad telling it in front of Ashley because now she's a grown athlete and a grown woman, and yeah, I don't know. That's how it was. That's how those were what I call the good old days.
Well, several months ago, Rick and I were watching a football game, and he told me a story about a Caesar salad at a Caesar's Palace in 1986. Do you want to fill in the blanks on that one, or do we want to shift gears?
Well, the one thing about the Horsemen, I tell everybody, we always did everything just like Rick did before we all joined. It was first class, and so when we had the private jet, and we based out of Las Vegas, and I think we went to Portland, we went to L.A., we went to Frisco, and each night we would come back, and so, of course, we got to be at Caesar's Palace, and Rick...
No, do it. It's a great story. It's world famous.
Yeah, he got the suite, on the penthouse suite.
$4,000.
Oh, it was.
86.
They had a round bed that had a motorized veil that surrounded it, and you talk about you talk about room service. When you walked in there was like, I don't know if who they thought was going to be there. If there was going to be a foreign country that was coming to feast, because there was Caesar salad, which I love. There was lobster. There was shrimp.
No, we ordered it. JJ, I ordered that for you because you had to have your salad and your lobster and your champagne. I ordered that for you. They didn't provide that up front. Get the story right.
Talking about champagne, and then the other part of it, that was, we didn't want to be bored and be alone, and
I know.
And so Rick took care of that too, and they sent up some babysitters, and when he called the front desk and they sent him up and came in and Rick checked them over, and I remember he picked up the phone and talked to the concierge, and he said, I asked you to send up some people to entertain us and keep us happy, and he said, I'm not pleased with what I'm looking at. He said, why don't you just close your eyes and let's rewind this thing and pretend that you're talking to old Blue Eyes. You're talking to Frank Sinatra himself, and he's on the other end of the line saying, hey, send somebody up to help me relax and entertain me. That's what I'm talking about. So he ran off the ones that were there.
They sent four midgets.
Oh, the other three they would have fought each other for the cover of Playboy. They were all so beautiful. And
I don't remember any of this.
Talking about champagne, and Rick, I don't even know if you remember this. We were in Hawaii.
Yeah, God,
and we went out for dinner in Hawaii, and Rick says Dom Perignon, and so they brought one, and that didn't last too long. Then bring another one, bring another one, bring another one, and right as we're really having a good time, who walks in the restaurant to have dinner but Tom Selleck?
Yeah,
and he was red. That's when Magnum PI was red hot on the island.
Yeah.
And he came in and wanted to order a bottle of Dom Perignon, and they said, well, we don't have any. The Nature Boy and his crew drank it all. So we invited Tom Selleck to come over, and we poured him a glass. And
that was at Nick's Fish Market.
Yes.
Hell yeah, man. JJ and I are world travelers.
How do you remember the name of the restaurant?
Because Nick's Fish Market. Nick's Fish Market is world famous.
Yeah, and I'm not blaming you either. And when I say you got me in all that trouble, I'm not blaming you because, and Conrad, you're a witness that if I had a magic wand and somebody said, could you want to change any one little thing, I would say absolutely not.
What trouble did I get you in? We just had fun. Well, I can't help but you have a minnow bucket full of nuts. Johnny Bench?
Trouble is a bad choice of words, other than if you say, well, you were married 3 times and divorced 3 times, so I think that would fall under the umbrella of trouble.
Well, I was married 4 times, divorced 1. I'm way ahead of you, buddy.
Yeah,
and I promise you, I'm way ahead of you in alimony and child support. And all I'm going to say about you, this is the guy's honest truth, is he raised 2 daughters on his money that weren't his. Jeanette's children by a prior marriage, and he took care of them, raised them like they were his, treated them like they were his, and he still, I think, has a relationship with them. But at the end of the day, the wives get mad, right? They forget all the good things.
Right.
No, they forget all the good things. I mean, he treated Jeanette's children, and they were lovely kids. Don't misunderstand me. I thought they were great, too. But Jim treated them and raised them like they were his, because I don't know if Jeanette was getting no money from her ex, whatever it was, but
they were actually my nieces. From her sister actually died of an accidental.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, I couldn't remember.
And they they had no one, and I said, well,
no, Jeanette adopted them. That's right. Okay, I couldn't remember what it was, but the point is it was not your responsibility, and it's nothing bad.
It says a lot about JJ.
It speaks volume for JJ. He took care of everybody. Yeah, and the problem is he moved into Greg Valentine's old house, and that started. That was the curse to begin with.
That's right. I'm going to blame it on him. Lex Luger lived up the street.
I know.
And his wife Peggy. When it hit the fan, it was his wife who took Jeanette to the. It wasn't Bill Deal, but it was his counterpart in terms of high dollar, high impact divorce lawyer in Charlotte. And
I know. Hey, we're all together. I mean, and I just saw Peggy, and we had Lex on the show last week or 2 weeks ago, and he was great. But man, they forget how good they had it. And Peggy is very bitter, and it's not my business. I'm not passing judgment. But at one time, Peggy Luger was rolling. Big money.
Bitter towards you, wrestling, or Luger, or all the above?
No. There's two women that I can very well promise you. There's two women whose kids, and they're both very nice people. This is not about them, but it's their critique of the business. Steve Borden, Sting.
Right.
I see Sue periodically because her son played football at Kentucky, right? Mm-hmm. And I can guarantee you, and that kid is a beautifully, physically gifted kid, 6'5", 240. He'll never be in wrestling. She's bitter. I'm not sure why, because Sting treated her great. But Peggy Luger with Brian, and I can't think of Brian's sister's name, but I saw her at the Sugarloaf Country Club. Wow. And I just thought to myself, you want to say, but there's nothing to say back. You absorb it, and you go like, okay, well, Peggy, I'm sorry, But, I mean, God, to carry that around for so long. I mean, it's hard to understand. And in all fairness, you want to say, God, guys, give it a break. But, they won't hear it. And why would you argue the point, right?
Right.
I mean, it is what it is. The moral of the story is don't get married. I'm telling you, first of all, JJ, Conrad makes more money than God, okay?
Oh, my God.
It's not Vince McMahon. It's Conrad, right? And he's licensed in 80 cities, okay? So he's right on the verge of $2 million a month, right? Why would he get married? Why? Why? Woo, woo, woo. Why? I mean, like, what I'm going to do, yes, like Daniel Bryan. Why would JJ, why would he get married, JJ? Let me tell me why.
If you could distance yourself and look at things objectively, which when you have a little alcohol, we're back to alcohol again. You get a little alcohol, and all of a sudden it clouds your.
I'm drinking a Diet Coke.
Better judgment, but
I'm drinking Diet Coke. I'm just asking him why. I'm drinking Diet Coke right now. We're not drinking. I'm asking him why would he get married.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will. And the statistics of marriages.
He can call a collie, a Labrador, a German Shepherd. He can have whatever he wants over there. He can have a Persian cat.
What the hell are we talking about?
At the Conrad, right? Why would you get married if you were Conrad Thompson? If I had to do again, I have 4 beautiful kids. I get that, right? But at the end of the day, you and I were wrestlers. And I give the women this. How hard would it be to be married to guys like us? Even if we were straight, because the travel, the intensity, the workload, insanity. But really, a guy like Conrad who just loves the business from the outside, loves it enough to travel with it a little bit, why would he get married? I mean, give me an FYI.
My gosh.
I'm gonna call Dr. Phil and have my Dr. Phil.
You're gonna have an intervention.
Yeah. And I think that'd be a very entertaining show. Just have Conrad, you be on with Dr. Phil and Rick, and I'll be special guests.
I know, yeah.
We'll give our expert opinion, and by the time that show's over, I don't care what Dr. Phil says, you're never going to get married.
Yeah, it'll be a rating. What a rating. Dr. Phil would love to have it. He'll probably pay us.
Yeah, well, man, absolutely.
There are some guys that should never get married.
Yep.
And one of them's Ric Flair, and our guest, of course, JJ.
No, let me finish. So Michael Hayes comes to his house the other day, right?
Here we go.
P.S., right? Came to Conrad's house, right? Like he didn't know what was going on. The visit, right? It's called the visit from hell. But actually, it's a financially well-to-do visit. It's a great deal. But Conrad, I said, Michael, how'd you like the house? He said, I wasn't there. I didn't get back till 3 a.m. Conrad, where did you take Michael Hayes?
We went to the ballet.
The ballet. So the ballet. Okay, so the European ballet is in Huntsville, right? Hey, JJ, you see me winking?
What is going on right
now?
Yeah.
They have chicken wings in the ballet? Popcorn?
No.
Okay. Diet Coke?
Fur burger, side of thighs.
There you go. Why would he get married? That'll come back on him. And he comes back and flaunts it in front of his girlfriend. He's done.
I don't know what any of this is talking about.
Because she's going to wake up and say one day,
Conrad,
you are a no-good son of a bitch. You can't do that stuff, Conrad. We love you, but you got to stay out of the ballet.
I'm not getting married.
Yeah, and you certainly don't need a cook, because I've been a guest in your home, and you are a fabulous cook. So certainly you can't marry a woman for her culinary skills.
Yeah. No, you're right. You know what? She can't cook. She made me spaghetti one time, and she can't cook nothing. As beautiful as she is.
I really hope she's not subscribed to Woo Nation. But if you're listening, you should.
The noodles
subscribe.
were like glue. It's like eating a Wendy's. There you go. I'll get right back to her. Wendy can make tacos. That's it.
You know, I had a list of questions, and I have no freaking clue what the hell's going on.
We're having a fun. We're telling stories.
Yeah, we're talking about me.
Yeah,
People want to listen to stories about you.
This is just what it's like to have a day in the life and to be with Ric Flair.
That's
we might
fair.
have had an agenda when we started. You might have had a nice list of questions.
Yeah, who cares about the agenda? We talked
gone
about it all.
Everywhere, and that's how we live our lives.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot about Tom Selleck.
Enjoy every second of it.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't wear my robe on airplanes anymore either, JJ. So there you go.
I can attest to that. That's actually a fact. And another fact, of course, is that you're listening to Woo Nation right here on Play.it. I mentioned it briefly, but you should definitely subscribe if you haven't already. Everybody who's a wrestling fan is familiar with the Monday Night Wars and what a big deal the ratings were. Well, that's kind of how it works with podcasts. We need you to subscribe. So if you enjoy the show, please do. But we're talking right now to J.J. Dillon. J.J., let's talk briefly about your jump from the NWA, or WCW as it was, to the WWF. How did that come about back in the late 80s or early 90s? What was the scoop there on your jump at the time?
Well, when I started in the business, you didn't have like NXT or the developmental territories or these wrestling schools. It was very difficult to get into the business. And I, Rick, I know, paid his dues with, going to Vern's camp and, had to prove, that he wanted it. And I was from an era earlier than that. And you had to love what you were doing, which I did. You had to have a lot of willingness to accept the disappointments along the way, which I did. And then I refereed for 8 years before I ever put on a pair of wrestling trunks. So when I started full time, I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, Jim Crockett Sr., and months from my 28 going almost 29 years old. So I knew then that I couldn't do that forever like the Nature Boy, and I wasn't blessed with a genetic body like his. And so I got interested right from the get-go in the creative side, the matchmaking, television production, and all those things, and paid attention to what was involved with dealing with talent. And so that gave me longevity in the business. And when the Horsemen, when Tully and Arn left to go to work for Vince as the Brainbusters with Bobby Heenan, for me, the glory years with the Horsemen were over.
Yeah.
I knew that. The name was going to carry on for a while longer because that's the nature of promoters will take and ride it till it can't stand anymore. But I knew it was over, and I had been wrestling Paul Ellering of the Road Warriors in special attraction matches, which how many of them could I have? And so Tully called me from there, and it was right after the buyout with Turner, who wanted to protect the programming because it still was getting fabulous ratings every Saturday at 6:05, and it ended up I went to New York with Lindsay, who I wasn't married to yet, and Vince sent a car in, and I met him at his home, and I was 44 years old, I guess, and I walked off camera and, became an executive for the company, and it was a very, I, on a much smaller scale, had done all those same things with the regional territories, but here was Vince with this unbelievable operation that he had all these professionals who were experts in whatever that particular phase was, doing what I used to do on a part-time basis. So it was a very great learning experience for me. I was there almost 8 years. Vince Vince is a workaholic. I look at what he has accomplished with the brand that he's built an international brand, and there will always be people who will be critics. And I always say to them, if it hadn't been Vince, and it had been, and I could give you a list of other names, where would the business be today, or would we even have a business? And, of course, it's hypothetical. We could never answer that question. But the 8 years that I was there, I worked hard, but I learned so much because this business, you never, ever stop learning. And the minute that you think you got it all figured out, know it all, you better go do something else, which I didn't do. But I had a fabulous career. The highlight of my career was the Horseman years and all the time that I got to spend around Rick. And the proof of that is the fact that we're lifelong friends. And we stay in touch, and every time that I get a chance to see him, it's a special moment for me, and we laugh and we have a good time. And the time that we were on the road, we enjoyed life, and when we get the opportunity to get together again, it's nothing but reliving good times.
JJ, I want to ask you something, kind of a follow-up question about what you talked about there. When you mentioned after the buyout happened, you were kind of in the front office of Jim Crockett Promotions. When did you realize the writing was on the wall and these guys weren't really taking care of business financially, maybe the way they should be?
Well, almost immediately. And what happened with me, I'd had a contract that ran out, and nobody was really looking at me and worried about getting a new contract or getting me renewed. Jim Barnett was there that kind of paid attention to those little things. But during the due process of the acquisition, they talked to anybody that was a key player in the structure of the organization, and we heard all the right things. We heard here's a network, Turner, with funding that would never be an issue. The state-of-the-art equipment. They talked about programming that they could go and send around the world, and that they could take wrestling and package it in with other things that our program would get places that we never could on our own. They had all the right answers, and the one thing that they said at the end of the conversation, but of course, we would never touch the wrestling product itself because that's what you do best. And the ink wasn't even dry on the contract, and every closet wrestling fan that worked in the organization, there was a guy named Jeff Carr, who I don't know what he did then. He was there a long time. And first thing he said was, in them it was strictly ratings because they were a broadcast company, and to them, ratings meant that it would translate into revenue streams later if they could get the ratings. And he said, I could jump the ratings next week. He said, I'll put Nature Boy Ric Flair and Sting on television. And I said, yeah, you sure would do a jump in the ratings. But then the next question I would ask you is, what would you do the next week after that and the following week and the following week? Because that's how you had to think. And they just had a blank look in their face because they had no idea. And that was the difference, that Vince McMahon is a third, now fourth generation. That's their whole life. That's all they do. They're experts in the wrestling business. And with Turner, it was just one division in a broadcast company, and there were a lot of people there at CNN and the upper floors that looked down their nose at wrestling and would have been happy to see it go away. And Ted Turner wouldn't have any part of it, because when he started the UHF station to become the Superstation, he had three things. He had Andy Griffith, he had the Atlanta Braves, and he had professional wrestling. And if you ever asked Ted to list it in order, wrestling was number one. And when you have a program with a consistent time slot at 6:05 Saturday for in excess of 25 years, anybody in television will tell you that is priceless. And there were people who were just total idiots that took it and ran it into the ground, and the thing that was missing, they didn't have a Vince McMahon figure that could look over everybody else and know that they were doing something wrong. And even though the rating wars, they all reflect back in the rating wars, and they said that, TBS won the rating wars, but during that period of time, they were not profitable in pay-per-view. They were not able to run live events and draw any money. And where Vince McMahon pioneered licensing and merchandising, they tried to get that launched and never got that off the ground.
Well, Jim, not to interrupt you.
Gave enough rope to hang themselves.
Not to interrupt you, they did draw money in live events the first time around. But because we went to Greensboro one time and there were 16 guys that didn't show.
Yeah.
And 10 guys that wouldn't do the finishes sent from the office, right? So the crowds, I mean, literally Charlotte, North Carolina, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, towns that you know we rocked in, right? You couldn't draw, to this day you can't draw a dime in Charlotte. I mean, you get 6,000 people at Raw. Last night we had 17,000 here in Atlanta. But Atlanta's just getting over it. I mean, my God, the guys wouldn't do what was sent down. And I would, Jim,
and the other thing, too, is the nature of our business was always what's in the house. You work hard to get more people in the house, and it translated to financial rewards. The more people were there, the more money that you made. That was your motivation. And the minute that you had people who they wanted to treat professional wrestling like the Atlanta Braves and the Atlanta Hawks, and so once the big fat guaranteed contracts came out with all of the perks, then guys who were conditioned to performance and reward are now got guaranteed contracts, and they started working as hard, figuring out not to work because they knew they were going to get paid anyway. And that was ultimately what really was the basis of the demise. Like Rick said, when they go to a town, guys would say, I don't want to do that. And you didn't have a Vince McMahon that was standing there and say, there's no discussion. You pack your bag.
No, I know. Well, Jim, you don't remember. This is how good a memory is because I watched Fox Network News the other day, and I realized that booze does not kill brain cells. It comes from something else, right? You and I were in Kansas City, Missouri, and you said, Nate, I'm out of here, man.
Yep, that was my last shot.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
It was Kansas City, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, you look. We weren't at the where the old place we used to wrestle at. We were at the big building.
Yep.
Not the Keel. It was
Kemper
Kansas City.
Arena, what it was called then, but it was the big
Keel
building.
is St. Louis.
Okay.
Yeah. We were at the convention center where we went to. But there was nobody there anyway because the guys already killed the town. And Jim looked at me and goes, "I'm out of here." I mean, and here's J.J. Dillon, right? Bill Bush should have hung on to him. Like Jim had a grasp on the business, but you know what? Jim was too nice.
It was Jim Hurd.
No, you had a grasp on the business.
Oh,
you gave me a contract. You gave me the biggest contract I ever had. You know that, right?
No.
And you gave me limousines. You don't remember that?
Yeah.
What year was that?
But you earned them.
That doesn't matter. We're not talking about what I deserved. You gave me the biggest contract I ever had in my life, and I was still making less than half of what Sting, Luger, Sid Vicious, Nash, Hall, and who else making it? Right? Correct, Jim?
Yes.
Yeah, half. But he gave me the contract.
What year was that?
JJ, what year was that? Bill Bush should have. I mean, Ted Turner, who I actually had his number at one time. We used to hang out at Rupert's. I should have called Ted and say, make this guy the boss. We just bounced around different times.
Right.
JJ should have had Bischoff's job. JJ should have Hurd's job. How cool would it have been?
Great.
No ego, smart, understands the business, right? They can negotiate.
A wrestling person.
Well, JJ called me one day and said, Rick, I hate this, but I need to get your credit card back. Remember that, JJ?
Yeah.
They made a mistake of giving me a corporate credit card. JJ called me and said, Rick, I love you to death. Give me a credit card. Okay, sorry. Yeah, you can't be.
That's a life lesson right there. Don't give Rick.
No, I just give me the fucking. I'm never gonna lie about it, right? Said Rick, you can't spend $1,000 at Rupert's. I said it was a business expense. I was with what's the big basketball players from Atlanta? I was with Dominic Wilkins. He said Rick doesn't work. Okay, and by the way, you can't spend that.
Remember Charles Barkley when he was with the 76ers?
Of course.
Come and sit in the front row of ringside.
Yes, of course.
And then when we got to Houston, there was Sir Charles and say, now you're in my town. We're going out on the town. Oh,
I know. God. Thank you. But it was on my credit card. And JJ goes, Rick, I hate to say this, and we love you to death, right? You're very fun to be around, but give me a credit card. Corporate's calling it in saying unrealistic. Don't give me a corporate American Express, man. I walked it everywhere going, hey, Louie, look at this sucker. Woo, woo, woo.
You guys went into the Hall of Fame together for the Four Horsemen in 2012. JJ, talk to us about what that meant to finally be in the WWE Hall of Fame just a few years ago.
Well, and again, I always tell people that you have to give Vince McMahon credit. He was the one that started. A lot of people don't know this. He declared bankruptcy twice before he ever did it. So he was an entrepreneur who put his mouth and his money where it was together, and a couple times he learned by failures along the way, and he sold the rights to Crockett to have TBS for $1 million, and that's what bankrolled the first WrestleMania. And I mean, you could look back where it went from there, and WrestleMania is now the Super Bowl of wrestling, and he's built a global brand that no one will ever equal it. And what really impresses me, and this isn't about tooting Vince's horn, but having worked with him, he sleeps and eats 24/7, and that's where Bischoff and the people at TBS had no idea, what they were up against. And he eats, sleeps, and thinks. And when I was in Chicago, where we were doing, watching everything that was going on, Vince is hands-on with every aspect of the business, every little thing, whether it's a poster for an event, whatever it is. He looks at it, and it gets his blessing. And at the end of the night, they were having to take a private jet to Orlando for, what was it, Tough Enough? That they had to do the next day. And, the rating before dropped a little, and then so Vince wanted him and Triple H to be there and be hands-on for it. So when we were all done after being there all day, he was going to get on a jet and fly to Orlando, and we did an hour live thing for the network after, and Vince talked to everybody, kind of told us what was expected. And then before we were to go live, and they weren't even off the air yet for Raw, he was on a headset talking to the truck, still, giving his input there.
He was kicking some ass.
Yeah, he was. And then he got us started, and from my position, I thought Vince just kind of got us kicked off and then left to go fly to Orlando, and it wasn't until at the end of an hour.
You and I were texting him.
I realized Vince was still there with a headset and involved in the whole thing.
Oh, you're talking about the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm saying, and you and I were texting him from the bar.
Yes.
JJ says, you're not going to text him. I said, watch this. No problem, brother. He said, I go, hey, Vince, it's JJ and Rick. Just want to thank you for the opportunity, part of the show. He said, we're going to toast you right now. I said, hell, if I was there, I'd toast you guys too. Remember that? He's the best. Yeah, he's the best. Yeah. And so I said, tell that tadpole son of yours to have a glass of wine too. he goes,
and unless somebody in the family says, "Oh no, you can't."
No. Then I said,
we got an F you back from that one.
He was F you back on that, right? Then he goes,
yeah.
I said, yeah. Well, I said that he thinks he's the authority until Steph shows up, and then she says, "What's up?" And Vince texted me back, "Amen." Yeah.
Oh boy.
I love Hunter. I don't even bring that up when I see him in person, though.
Well, JJ, thank you so much for coming on Woo Nation here with Ric Flair and myself. You've been a wonderful guest for us, and everybody has requested you. You've been one of our very most requested guests, and I can't thank you enough for the time today, sir.
Well,
JJ,
it's an honor. It's an honor for me, Conrad. I've become friends with you as a result of having met you for the first time. My friendship with Rick will last until my last breath, and this is Rick is. The reason that Rick is still out there and he's still entertaining people is because there hasn't been anybody else come along yet that can replace him. And there's nobody better at what he does in any facet of the business. And doing this podcast will be no different. And I'm honored just to have been one of the guests, and I would love to come back on sometime in the future and do it again.
Well, we love you, buddy. Thank you for everything. Listen, I'm going to write a letter to the prison. Send me the information. Requesting you have a machine gun. And you go down there, and if what I'm watching on Locked Up is real, I want you to take those guys out of the cell and let them know what's up, okay?
All right, Rick. You take care, and
I will.
People outside the business, I say, Rick, I love you. They'll think, well, maybe these guys are a little bit funny, but we have a special friendship.
We do
in our fraternity, and when I say I love you, I mean it with all of my heart. You're one of my dearest.
I love you too. You know what, Jim? And we're not ever going to take any crap from any women. Okay?
yeah.
If you see when they get upset at you, you just put your head down on the table. I actually react. I've got to learn how to do you. It's go like this. I thought you were getting cussed out. You were asleep.
We can still laugh about it, not go out and want to kill ourselves.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Rick and Conrad.
Thanks for all the respect. We love you, buddy.
All right, my friend.
Hey, you and I need a weekend on Conrad needs to fly us both in to the Conradison, okay?
We're gonna do something somewhere. We'll find a time and a place. You're all over the world in such demand that you're doing these appearances and the fans, the fans love you and you love doing it, so it's a good thing.
Thanks, Jim. We love you, buddy. Thanks, man.
All right, my friend. I love you too.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Nature Boy Ric Flair with my fabulous co-host Conrad Thompson, thanking James J. Dillon for a wonderful experience. He's a great guy. He was arguably one of the 2 or 3 best managers in the business, a better person than he was a manager, a quality guy, and thanks so much, Jim, for being a guest on Wooooo Nation.
Listen to some of the biggest names in sports on demand on your new podcast network, Play.it. Hear exclusive content from 16-time World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion Ric Flair.
Wooooo Nation!
Bill Roden on sports.
We are talking about a whole nother level of speed in the game.
And listen to top CBS radio sports personalities like Boomer and Carton and the Sports Junkies.
Do you think they will play with desperation?
Yes, of course.
Do you think you will see it?
Hear what you've been missing at Play.it.